if you're paying attention, you get to see all the worlds of the modern economy and the culture of the United States as it was and as it is. And it's possible to see where things are going from that vantage point in history if you're paying attention. And I was paying attention because I always pay attention. What I want to talk about is how to know what's true and what's false. If you are the type of person like me that wants an original life for yourself and doesn't want to trade off or compromise between money, satisfaction, and happiness, I not only don't, but I can't and won't because I feel like something's missing if those things don't come together in a package that works for me. And I'm looking back at this, and we're talking about stories this week. The story of society is my perspective on the story. There is no other story that I can speak about. If I speak about things from the standpoint of my opinion about something I don't understand, I'm projecting my opinion onto other people. People who do that are not aware they're doing it. If they were, they wouldn't do it. Self-awareness does something really important. It turns off the opinion projector. And then people say, well, how do I know? Well, if you're not aware, you're projecting your opinion. If you're aware, you're not going to project your opinion. You'll be curious and you'll want to connect and you'll want to understand. So you know to elevate and evolve yourself. How to know what's true and what's false requires a software update before the firmware update. It's coming to me how this works from my own stories as I embrace my own stories in reality as they really are, not as I want them to be sometimes, but as they really are without projection. I get there simply. If it's not simple, I don't understand yet. That doesn't mean I won't. It means I don't understand it yet. I wish I had known this a long time ago, but I did. I just wasn't ready and didn't need to know all of that yet because I had something to do. And that is called seeking. And the journey of seeking, the journey of becoming, the journey of discovery, if you are like me and one of those types of people, is required. You can't not do it. You got to do it. How to know what's true and what's false in your market comes from owning and knowing your own projections and being careful not to be swayed or taken in by an opinion projected. And I started thinking about these people, and I'm trying to make it clearer, not only for myself, but for other people, so I can do my part. And the idea of the opinion projector just made perfect sense. And I've been around it my whole life and thought, you don't know what you're talking about, but you're in charge. That's the problem. The problem is you are in charge and you don't know what you're doing. And other people think you do. And now I need you to pay me. That's the problem. My problem. My job is to solve my own problem. That was my problem. To sit in rooms with people and say, you don't know what you're doing. To myself, a lot. You don't know what you're talking about, and you think you do. And you can make a decision that impacts me economically. This isn't working for me. I got to figure out a way out of this. My band failed. That's a good line, isn't it, for a chapter? My band failed. I started Devil's Maker when I was 15 in my parents' garage with my buddy who could play any song on the guitar he heard. He was great. I named the band Devil's Maker after Syd Barrett and Black Sabbath and anything else I could think of that suited my dream of not having to ever get a real job. And he tried to teach me how to play bass. I own the garage. My parents did. I own my bass. I bought it with my own money. I was bussing tables and washing dishes in a restaurant, steakhouse. So it was my money. I bought my own bass. I bought my own amp. And I bought my own drugs. I bought my own bongs. I had my own stuff. Bought my own skis. All of it. But the band wasn't going to make it. That was my problem. I had a car, couldn't open the door. Sometimes the window didn't roll down, and it didn't always go in reverse. And the first day I got my driver's license, I drove it into a tree. All true. Part of my story. How do I know what's true and what's false if I don't claim my story? I remember people saying, Larry, were you a troubled teen? No. I was figuring it out. No, I wasn't a troubled teen. No, I picked Stoner Pothead Burnout as my identity, but I wasn't good enough as a bass player to move to LA or go hang out with Rick Rubin in New York. That's exactly where I would have gone. If I was a good enough bass player, I'm out. I found my passion. It's impossible. My cousin owned a folk music school near where I lived. I took lessons from her and some of the teachers there. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. I can make a lot of noise. If I look at my market, how did I get into it in the first place? I failed up. I completed what I started. Stoner Pothead Burnout, early adopter, psych hospital at 17, AA club in Highland Park, day by day club, early adopter. That's what I am. I'm an early adopter of cool stuff. AA is awesome. I was in it from 17 to 24. It was great. And then I started drinking again and I'm fine. I didn't get there by mistake though. Not at all. No, it was great. I feel bad for the real alcoholics. All these kids show up from the mental hospitals who are trying to survive having to be hierarchical lawyers or accountants or whatever. Like, I'm like, no, but I can't play bass. What am I going to do? I'm going to live in my parents' basement for 50 years. That's what I thought. I can't learn in this school system. What the hell am I going to do? How am I going to make a living? Well, I figured it out. How? I did it. But I didn't want to. Of course, I didn't want to work for my parents and sell children's clothing. Oh my God. When that happened to me, I was excited about it. But the other part was like, I got to get a real job in business. So I ended up winding my way up and failing forward. How did I do it? I did it, took action on what I wanted, which was not have to get a real job, but make a ton of money. And I did it. Spent my whole life doing this. And I succeeded at it. And I realize, looking back, all those successes mattered. And getting my face pounded into the pavement, literally, was part of the work. I'm grateful for those experiences looking back. Um, and I look back and I'm like, what did I miss? What I missed was have fun with it and just say, don't listen to those other people. They don't know, the opinion projectors. And they'll insist. We were talking about this. I've been talking about this a lot because I'm thinking a lot about stories this week. Because we're doing this thing this week on stories, and I'm thinking a lot about stories and my stories, the anecdotes. And here's one. I was in DC and I was working at the front desk of a hotel, Omni Georgetown Hotel, located in where? DuPont Circle. You ever been to DC? The Ethiopian ambassador comes into town and wants me to go get him lunch. The answer is no. I work at the front desk. Get your own damn lunch. I got away with it until Omni came into town with the white glove treatment. What did I do? I quit. I was done. The hotel industry, not for me. I looked at it. I was like, this is perfect. You live anywhere in the world. There was a night auditor from Lebanon. And I'm like, where are you from? He says, we don't talk about it like that. What tribe are you with? Druze. Oh, Wali Jumblat, right? Yeah. How'd you know that? Well, I didn't go to class a lot, but I read every single newspaper in DC that I could get every day. And I stayed up till 5 o'clock in the morning watching Charlie Rose. That's how. I know who Wali Jumblat is. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. And he's like, yeah. I was like, what are you doing? He's the one, the night auditor. Oh, maybe I should. I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should become the night auditor. I was like, what do you have to do to become the night auditor around here? One is be in the hotel business. He was in the hotel business. He was in DC because he was going into a career in hotel. His family probably owned a hotel. Well, I don't know. That group, maybe not so much. I don't know. I don't remember the story. But this guy was super serious and he had a direction. I didn't have a direction. I was the only one, almost everywhere I went, that didn't know what's my lane. Rick Rubin in New York, he had a lane. Music. Russell Simmons. Patti Smith. Like, that's what I wanted. Nope, that didn't work out. Then I went to Paris. I'm living in Paris. I'm hanging out with fashion models. Wandered in. Like, you need to get some new shoes. That's what they're thinking. I'm just wandering around, wandering. Larry David said this. Yeah, thank you, Larry. You helped me a lot. You all did. All you comedians. Like, I want to be a comedian. I'm not funny enough. You'll be funny in 5 years. You got to go do it. You can't just, I'm going to be a comedian. You got to bomb like for 5 years and play bad clubs and you have the audience throw shit at you. Same with music. How do you get good? That's what I did. I got good at business stuff. Why? Because of this. Now I know. Liberation mechanics. Help other people and me. If we do it together. Do I get money? I'm going to get a shit ton of money. I'm not doing this for free. Do I have to market anything? No. I don't have to market anything. I know how it works, though. Believe me. That's what makes me dangerous. This is why, and I know this now. And that goes back to the stories. So the story of society. What is your relationship with your society? What is your relationship with yourself in relation to your relationship with your society? What is your relationship with your stories? That's where the truth is, not in your opinion mind, projected or listening to or accepting the projections of others as if they're true. That's the fundamental foundation of what I'm calling liberation mechanics, which took me a few years to write down and figure out through thinking about it every day since I was 7. That's the beginning of my story. I ran away from home when I was 7. And my mother said, "Larry, where are you going?" "Anywhere but here. Bring a coat." It's it's never true. I'm reading my about section now. It's never true when information comes from opinion, ever. I'm sitting in my dad's, mom's, grandma's, grandpa's showroom in the apparel center, which had been opened in the 70s. Big celebration. The mayor came. I think it was the not the pharaoh, the dictator, Richard M. Dictator. I learned about foreign policy from an expert in Chicago politics at University of Illinois, Circle Campus, a commuter school. He's in his 80s, tenured professor. That's how I learned about power in politics. Before I even went to DC, I knew how it worked. From him, he told the story. Here's how it works in Chicago. Chicago ain't ready for reform. He'd say stuff like this. Wait, I got lost. It's never true when information comes from opinion. Yes. He never shared his opinion once. This professor, never. He didn't know anything about foreign policy. He understood foreign policy principles. He had his own version of liberation mechanics. That's what I'm saying. He'd studied it for so long, specifically. There's a saying, think global, act local. That's the software update first, then the firmware update in the world. You can't transcend your own limited form if you haven't been local first. You can't tell a bunch of other people how to run the federal government if you've never even worked in a government. And you shouldn't be doing it if you're not good with people. Believe whatever you want. There's certain fundamental principles of life that always apply. If you didn't spend your whole life thinking about the political environment and how power works and how these systems and structures work, and you spent 2 years reading conspiracy theory stuff or other people's opinions, and now you know, and you're running to DC wanting to be in charge of all that stuff because you got a lot of money, you don't know what you're talking about. If you want to be liked on social media and you own a social media company, and now you're out there creating a persona so you can be more liked, does that make you a leader of anything? Or just some rich guy that owns a social media company platform that wants to be popular too? Bam! Those are opinions. And what happens to these opinions? From people who don't know, because they haven't done anything. They're just opinion projectors. They're just projecting their opinion. They've done other things. Maybe they know a lot about technology. Maybe they know a lot about healthcare. How do you know about healthcare? Work in healthcare for your whole life. That's good enough. Or 2 years is enough. Now you know something about healthcare. Or go through the experience of having a healthcare problem for 5 years. You're going to know more about healthcare than anybody who works in the healthcare industry in the United States. More, a lot more. They don't know. They're confused. Have you noticed? Those turn into beliefs, convictions, and then here's the problem: large bodies of thought based on evidence, history, and authorities who guard the secrets. Who are the guardians of the secrets? Those industry celebrities. Based on evidence, history, and authorities who guard the secrets. I got 10 minutes. I can do it. So I worked at a company called Networked Insights, and I was looking back at this presentation, Samsung. So they put this presentation together. So I do business development, and I was working for a company called Optimine, and it was a bid management system for Google. because Google was crushing all these corporations. So Google, of course, sells them a bid management solution for free, which is basically a system to compete and win on Google. Now that's hilarious. So this was a good product. It worked. And the only way to make it work is to get people to let you test it. So I give a lot of credit to these founders. One of them was a guy named Bill. Bill hired me. I didn't know what I was doing, but I did. But I didn't know what I was doing in terms of the industry. And I hadn't had a success yet in software. I closed their biggest client the year I was there. The biggest client they got through their network. The one from a cold call came from me, a big financial institution that was getting crushed by Google. And this bid management solution, Optimind, worked. And not always. That's the point. So they had 4 pilot clients. They proved it. I'm not going to get into too many of the details, but e-commerce, lead gen, big lead. Now this is big ad campaigns. So I'm out selling this stuff, and I succeeded. And then they pushed Bill out of the company, and I'm flown up to Minneapolis, and I go to the fancy country club, and they brought in and he wanted to have a weekly update meeting with me about my pipeline, and I quit. And I left some commission money on the table. They probably didn't pay it all to me. I think that account was probably worth millions for them. I got part of it, but I'm like, I can't work for this guy. And so now I know people know me. Like I've been networking like a maniac. So I'm like, oh my God, I actually work in an industry, software, technology. I got into it based on reading a book called Wisdom of Crowds. Somebody gave me at a networking event when I was trying to get out of the insurance industry. I'm like, this is great. I actually have a real job or a career for the first time in my life that may last, because this is going to last, right? This Google thing, it's going to last. Nothing lasts. That's the point. They're all cycles. So I'm there, and now I'm in the industry. So I went to my network. I said, what should I do? What else should I do? Networked insights. So I approached the guy, CFO, I think. They hired me, a couple $100,000 a year. And they screwed me out of part of my draw after I closed Allstate for them using their system to figure out how to do it. And I showed them. The deal's too small. So this is the presentation. They can't sue me. They sold it to American Family Insurance. They could have sold it to Allstate. Goldman Sachs gave them all this money. I swear to God, there were moments, I think I was the only person in the entire room that could see what was going on in that market. They're not going to listen to me. Their top salesperson, who never sold anything, told me it was too early and no one will buy the stuff. It's not true at all. How did I do it? The guy at Allstate came from Dell. Dell was playing with social media listening tools, and they wanted to evolve it. Allstate started a consumer insight. It was a consumer insights company. They were trying to reinvent the media landscape. Media buyers don't want to change anything. I learned that from when I worked for Optimind. I met with some of the head media buyers in the country. They don't want any part of anything that would take money out of their pocket. What happens if you lower my digital ad spend? I make less money. President of a big media company gave me a meeting, and he told me, he's like, why are you in my office? You're going to sell me something that cuts my income by 40% if it works. And it did work. Not always. He threw me out of his office. See? Samsung, the 38th largest corporation in the world. It makes them the 35th largest economy. Goal to become the #1 smartphone in North America. I worked for this company. I can't believe they let me in. And I got them into Allstate. Goldman could have sold the company to Allstate instead of American Family Insurance. I'm the only person, I swear to God. They're from Stanford and private equity. I just saw it immediately. And my mentor, Jed, was like, Larry, you put a logo like Allstate on you'll be there forever. You'll be the hero. No, they fired me because of the way I did it. I didn't follow the rules because I couldn't, because they didn't make any sense. This presentation doesn't make any sense. It's not true. They made it up because Forrester and Gartner, and they're all coming in. They wanted to impress them. Marketing. Okay. It's best to avoid people like that. That's what I'm saying. It's best to avoid that. There's always a that. Celebrities, people who are famous and people who have all of those credentials don't always know what they're doing. They think they do, though. Those are the ones that are the problem. Those rooms are gated, confusing, and not relevant. They are very confusing because the people in them are talking to each other. That's an echo chamber. Hey, let's figure this out. You can't. It doesn't work like that. Go out in the world and take action in an area you know something about. How are you going to reform the federal government if you've never worked? I worked in the federal bureaucracy for 4 weeks. 4 months. Yeah, 4 months. I don't know how it works. Let's see. Being in what passed is not as much fun as remembering what's coming through being in that story. It's more fun. Be in your own story in an area you feel connected into. You don't have to be an expert. You will be an expert, because an expert is just someone who notices and has been in the domain long enough where all of a sudden things start to connect. You don't have to have 40 years, 50 years in it. You could have 2 weeks. If it's the right thing for you, you'll leap. The problem is if you're with people threatened by you because you're good, because you're in the right place, they're going to try to keep you from succeeding because you make them uncomfortable. That's what I did. I made people uncomfortable. I didn't understand it. Heart problem. I have a heart problem. Not anymore, but I did. I don't know how to connect with people. This is a lot of the problems with a lot of these big successful people is their hearts are closed. They're afraid is what it is, of connection, human connection. They don't know how to do it. Somebody like that you got to watch it. Just, guard your fingers and your toes because they'll eat them. Being in what passed is not as much fun. It's fun. It's supposed to be fun. I had a lot of fun with some of this stuff, and I made it hard. Every time I made it hard, I got back in my original story, collapsed into it, and I was fine. Noticing the story society tells itself inside your market. Notice the story society is telling itself inside your market. Those are the people who are belief fighting. They have an opinion, another opinion, they're belief fighting. LinkedIn's got this news feature. It's great. I'm having a lot of fun with it because the people who are showing up in it know what they're talking about. So it's great. So people are fighting over aviation or whatever. And I'm like, why do we have an aviation problem? Think about it. The air traffic controllers are exhausted. There's too many planes. And there's this crazy opinion debate. There's no opinions. It's not necessary. Who knows? People in that system of any kind, people in aviation that pay attention, not the ones that have something they're either confused or they have a hidden agenda, which is always either personal, I want to be important, or economic, I want to make more money, or I want to put my name on Mars. Notice the story society tells itself inside your market and how to avoid becoming attached to ideas, systems, and values no longer true. When I was in DC, I took a philosophy class because I wanted to learn how philosophy worked. And we were talking about Kant. And I said, what would Kant think about psychology? Because I was thinking about going into psychology. And the professor looked at me. He's like, why did you ask me that question? Because I want to know why. What do you mean? He was irritated. So I had the guy sitting in front of me. I'm like, what do you think of this Kant guy? And he says, I don't believe in that. Believe in what? I said, what do you mean? He says, no, I'm a libertarian. I'm like, what the hell is a libertarian? How can you be a libertarian? He says, well, I'm a libertarian. So we're getting in an argument. He's getting in an argument. I'm trying to figure out what the hell he's talking about. He says, I'm a libertarian. How can you be a libertarian? So he starts explaining it to me. You're telling me your opinion about books you've read with the word libertarian on them.